extend your arm and position your hand at the furthest point away from the body and focus on it, here is a question for you to ponder. Does your hand that you see exist in the past, present, or future? For immortal scientists, knowing the answer to this question is critical for understanding what Godspeed is and the resulting creation science to properly execute immortal powers and change physical reality. Many would say their hand exists in the present. However, it actually exists in the instant past, meaning what you see has already transpired and is only being reviewed within your mind. Why? Because as the light bounces off your hand, and although only billionths of a second, by the time the light makes contact with your eye, everything you see, touch, smell, and hear live in the instant past. One must also consider the additional time it takes for the mind to register and decipher the information. That said, even your thoughts actually journey across the mind, meaning everything perceived by consciousness really does live in the instant past. Otherwise stated, part of your existence is being created in the instant future to include consciousness, while part of you simultaneously exists within the instant past, and another part of you, the observer, occupies what immortal scientists call the living envelope between past and future, your presence felt in reality. According to physics, this means that you, as the creator mentioned in ancient texts from around the world, synchronously live in the alpha, or beginning of the moment, the omega, the end to that moment, and the continuous presence holding potential creation, meaning that which is to come. This means that every moment of your existence, your consciousness naturally exists in all three moments in time. Another way to express this is that conscious energy flows through space and time in all three locations at the same time. This is so important. So let me restate that. Everything in the universe, according to physics, is made from energy and mass. Our world is instant memories of mass and energy felt in what we call the present. That said, one must always assess each element of a word, phrase, or story as part of a physics equation and formula. Exactly what do I mean? Equations have equal signs. It is a balancing process, while a formula is a set of actions executed to generate a desired outcome. The components within the phrase Godspeed to form equations includes consciousness, motion, time, meaning the past, present, and future, and space itself, where the object or outcome is produced, the stage upon which reality lives. Immortal scientists refer to this as the Godspeed equation, used to create immortal powers, and by far one of the most important equations annotated in story form known to man, meaning the alpha, omega, and that which is to come, incorporating the elements of physics, meaning energy, time, and space. Even the creator's very existence incorporates all of the Godspeed equation. Otherwise said, the creator's ability to think incorporates awareness, which includes the law of motion, space, and time. Based upon the above equation, consciousness, or the ability to think, has mass and must also be folded energy due to the curving and bending of space within consciousness. The folding and bending of mass and of energy causes energy to return and contact itself where self-awareness is created. Consciousness is energy aware of itself. which then forms conscious thought. God is infinite energy making self-contact with no beginning or end. In ancient texts, this is encapsulated by the saying, I am that I am. The Creator is pure energy of awareness in action and the real underpinning of life and reality. God is infinite conscious motion of self-aware thought. Otherwise observed, Godspeed can be expressed as the velocity of divine conscious mass and energy, the driving force of creation moving through the flows of time and space. This most important discovery can release the inherent immortal powers within mankind when applied correctly. As annotated in the foregoing example of observing the hand, it establishes that you, meaning your consciousness, being energy and mass contacting itself, kinetically creates your hand and remains in existence as a universal memory you can perceive. These memories produce the dynamic dance of energy within space and time, generating the envelope of the living present. With the foregoing background, the Godspeed phrase commonly used to express one's desire to wish the Creator's blessings upon an individual for safe travel or successful outcomes in new endeavors, it now becomes clear the wish is for God consciousness to move favorably based upon the individual's request to bless a recipient. To that end, the term Godspeed also means the movement of consciousness through space and time to manifest an outcome such as the Big Bang and creation of life. Let's delve into the word speed to understand how it applies to developing mind over matter. Speed is the rate an object covers in distance measured in time. For example, it can take 1 hour to cover 50 miles or 10 hours if stuck in traffic. On the other hand, velocity is the change in position moving in a direction, resulting in displacement and can vary throughout a trip. Acceleration is a rate of increasing velocity or change of position in a direction. So speed is the strategic overall outcome, so to speak. Of note, stillness or zero velocity is just as important as acceleration in the creation process. Although counterintuitive, zero velocity, meaning time stands still, also in reality assists in the creation of gravity. Scientists know that even the fabric of space moves through time. So, if one part of the fabric of space slows down or stops relative to other movement, time creates a gravity well and reality falls into it. Otherwise expressed, in the Godspeed equation, speed refers to the overall movement of the Creator, or, as immortal scientists realize, even our own consciousness. There may be fits and stops of stillness, changes in velocity and direction, and acceleration along the way, mostly caused by the person's own psychology. However, each attribute assists in the creation process of reality and your own personal life. Of significant importance, because our consciousness exists simultaneously within the instant past, future, and the living presence, you, in the Alpha, Omega, and that which is to come, must commune with each other to coordinate seamless creation. This may seem odd to say. However, think of a brain cell within the body communicating with another cell to perform a specific task to generate a particular outcome. One cell may be in the past or future of another cell, dependent on the location in space and time and the direction a body is moving. When awareness or consciousness moves, so do all the thoughts that reside within it. Understanding the proper way to move consciousness in space and time impacts reality. As we explore the methods of Godspeed or conscious movement and understand your own awareness, you will learn to execute each one of these natural attributes, which are kinetic thoughts, meaning consciousness based on the laws of physics. With physics being the most tangible expression of the universe, movement of consciousness aligned with physics, one begins to impact reality and effectuate immortal abilities to generate mind over matter. There are primal questions immortal scientists must ask if they want to effectuate mind over matter. One such question asks, if everything in the universe is made from energy and mass, including our thoughts, can a person increase the velocity or quicken their thoughts beyond a certain threshold to impact physical reality? As noted earlier, acceleration is the increase in the rate of velocity. So the question actually has two parts to include: how does one quicken their thoughts? And is accelerating their thoughts the only way to impact physical reality? Of note, an important aspect of mass increasing speed is that the more velocity an object has, the heavier it gets, which immortal scientists understand only applies to part of the answer for implementing Godspeed equations. To that end, there is another, even more fundamental question which really precedes all others. Where does thought come from, and how is it formed? Using science, which actually comes from the Creator, we have assessed that consciousness in its most pure form is energy contacting itself. So, following that same logic, thought must also be energy contacting itself. However, the bending and folding of energy to create mass is merely part of the equation. Scientists now realize that folded energy or mass also bends the very fabric of space itself. Further, the inverse is also true. The bending of the fabric of space, also known as gravity, likewise impacts how energy is formed and morphs into mass to create the physical world. The relationship between mass and gravity is reciprocal. The immortal scientist, using the Godspeed equation, delves into the very creation of energy and the nature of the fabric of space. Science has found that the fabric of space and time are inseparable. They call it space-time, meaning the movement of time is directly correlated with the movement of space itself. So, as applied to consciousness, our awareness, made of mass or folded energy, exists intertwined within the motion of space-time. Otherwise stated, the fabric of space itself dynamically travels, holding the dominion of time, which assists in sustaining mass, meaning folded energy in the form of physical reality, and your thoughts that move within the mind. Let me restate this important point. Since space itself is in motion, as is energy, it simultaneously serves as a living highway, supporting physical reality to include our thoughts, captured in their own gravity well. Your thoughts, at the particle level, are folded energy or mass, bending the dynamic fabric of space where they live, creating their own vehicle, so to speak, to help sustain their existence traveling down the space-time highway. The Earth is a large gravity vehicle, that's captured in a larger space-time highway, as we are captured on the Earth's space-time highway. That said, space-time is inseparable. However, our mass or folded energy, meaning our physical bodies and consciousness, can remove itself from the moving vehicle of Earth, for example, using rockets to escape gravity. However, this does not negate our own internal gravity that continues to bend the local space-time around us. If the fabric of space and time were to stop moving internally within our minds, it would disrupt our very existence. Your ability to be conscious is also dependent on the continuous internal movement of mass or folded energy on your own living space-time fabric highway in the mind. Let me make an important Godspeed connection between the movement of the space-time fabric and energy and mass. The Godspeed equation addressed energy moving through time and space. Now we are applying that same physics to the fabric of space and time itself, meaning space moving through space, time moving through time, and the bending of space to create mass, thus mass living and moving through mass. Otherwise known, equations generate balanced results. However, when blockchaining equations that have different meaning or outcomes, they create formulas. One of the most important quantifiable blockchain equations or formulas expressed in ancient text is the Genesis equation and formula as expressed in the Bible. When the Genesis chapters are assessed according to the laws of physics, these verses reveal the basis for consciousness being at the heart of creation science. The Genesis verses contain all the elements of the Godspeed equation: energy, mass, the fabric of space and time, and when executed as part of the movement of consciousness or Godspeed, the creation formula generates life as we know it. The significance is that if one believes they are in the Creator's image, then, according to science, we encapsulate the Godspeed equation, allowing us to mimic the creation formula process for ourselves. With that said, let's deep dive into the Genesis equation and formula and how it generated life with a side-by-side correlation of one of the most famous ancient texts known to man, the creation story. And it says, God was brooding, or as some translations say, moving across or fluttering upon the face of the waters. The initial creative action of brooding upon the face of the waters, all the elements of physics held true, to include the very fabric of space dynamically moving with infinite consciousness, as well as pure wave energy and mass traveling with God's movement. The Creator's action of consciousness moving with energetic thoughts to include emotions across the face of the waters generated waves. Of note, in comparison, modern science has found that fundamentally all matter or mass is made from waves generated by the Big Bang, the genesis of the universe. And God said, "Let there be light," meaning after the Creator generated the infinite fields of waves in the Big Bang, mental observation or internal imagination impacted the waves. Otherwise stated, as infinite consciousness moved across and rippled the fabric of space, emitting the thought, "Let there be light," the waves collapsed together accordingly into particles of light. The Godspeed equation and formula activity created the initial picture or image of reality we experience today, meaning some form of transformed light. Immortal scientists use the knowledge of how to apply science to our intellect and generate kinetic thoughts. To that end, we will now incorporate the use of Godspeed or movement of conscious energy and mass through space-time, including the alpha and omega, to create the time envelope of physical reality directly from our mental processes. Prior to performing the mental physics experiment, we need to revisit the function of consciousness in time. For you to exist, consciousness must simultaneously live in the instant past, immediate future, and the present envelope of time to coordinate continuous creation. This is the same as, let's say, two nerve cells communicating through time to ensure proper functioning of the body. Now, we will apply that same knowledge to consciousness to commune with itself. When experiencing significant emotional events, they can be so strong at times, it seems as if your consciousness is unable to remove itself from the area of the heart. At other times, when performing mathematical equations, you feel yourself not in the heart, but the head. Why? Because your consciousness resides in those areas where the mental infrastructure has been established to address those issues. So your awareness can kinetically move and reside where needed most. With the understanding that your consciousness can kinetically move, remember this important point. You are taking all of your psychological thoughts and propensities with you, just like when the Creator moved across the face of the waters. Otherwise said, as you move your consciousness, you will also create life accordingly. For example, choose a health issue you have been wanting to address, whether a headache, small scrape, or even backache. Based on science, you already exist in that future where the headache, small scrape, or backache is being created. So, imagine you are focusing your presence in that emerging consciousness to impact the future. Now that you are there, hold the image of health, not the old picture of the minor injury, but of health that you now bring to the immediate future. You are now beginning the process of actually changing the wave structure that will create your immediate past. However, I will note that if you bring the belief of doubt, those wave patterns traveling with you to the immediate future will negatively impact the space-time fabric and energy and mass patterns. It's just a matter of simple physics. Remember, this is not based on belief, but scientific processes. Practice this mental physics process and observe for results. As you make more connections, the process will begin to quicken because you will eliminate mental roadblocks from years of misdirected emotional energy. Always know the Creator's laws of physics are eternal and immutable, omnipotent and omnipresent, to include within your mind. Otherwise expressed, the Creator's laws serve as a bridge to bring what you imagine into the physical world. Why? Because they exist in both your mind and the outside world. You will begin to exercise your immortal powers as you apply the knowledge, which will culminate into wisdom, and together we will learn from one another. In closing, always remember, Only your thoughts separate you from the universe, the Creator, and eternity.